I feel like a sandwich is closer in relation to a cocktail than it is a dish. You have to find harmony in textures. You have to find harmony in layering,
Hmm.
temperatures, everything, because everyone gets one snap at this. They get one bite at it. You get one pull of a cocktail. And I don't feel like the traditional chef's mind always works like that. They can compose dishes. They can put here, 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 and here, and they can have, they can compartmentalize things. In cocktails, you can't. It's just like this is always like this. This is always one piece. This is always a singular form of a taste. It's like a song, right? It's like, it's like you want the beat to drop, right? It's important for the beat to drop, but you need the build up. The build up. If there's no build up and that beat drops, like what's the point of a beat drop?
Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host Lucas Servodio, serving up an episode that's perfectly nestled between two thick and fluffy slices of freshly baked bread. Sandwiches. We all eat them, we all love them, and we all have our favorite go-tos whenever we get a hankering for one. We're joined today by Aaron Melendrez, the chef and owner behind one of Southern California's most exciting sandwich shops. From an Asian-inspired egg salad that'll change your damn life, to a pastrami sandwich that could go toe-to-toe with the best of them, Uptown Provisions in Whittier is the LA sandwich scene's best-kept secret. It's no surprise that behind such an interesting operation is a dude with a super interesting story. Aaron walks us through how he went from living in South Korea doing intelligence for the Air Force to helming some of LA's most forward-thinking bar programs and eventually going out on his own to start a baller sandwich shop that draws on his techniques as a mixologist to make some of the most interesting sandos this town has ever seen. Personally, I was super inspired by Aaron's story. It's very much one of learning as you go, drawing inspiration from the unlikeliest of situations, and regularly checking in with yourself to determine whether the path you're on is actually making you happy. I love talking to him, and I hope you'll enjoy listening to it, dear listener. Quick housekeeping note, our internet connection experienced some issues about 3/4 of the way, so you may notice a bit of a delay in my responses. But the important thing is, you still get to hear Aaron's awesome story with the added bonus of fewer annoying interruptions by me, so everybody wins. Thank God for the editing floor, am I right? Without further ado, let's chow down. Joining us today on the LA Food Podcast, all the way from Whittier, it's Aaron Melendrez, chef and co-owner of Uptown Provisions. Aaron, how you doing today?
What is up? How are we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for. Was I right that you're joining us from Whittier?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm at my house in Whittier and just hanging out. Also, where Uptown Provisions is, right down the street from me, so it's easy to kind of bounce back and forth.
It's a charming little pocket of Whittier you got there. How far are you from the actual store?
A little over half a mile, but it's just pretty much down the hill. So it's
Yeah.
very, very close. I live kind of just above the boulevard, tucked up against like the really pretty hills that you see driving into Whittier. It's kind of at the basin of those.
Did you grow up in that neck of the woods?
No, we were pretty nomadic, like I will say that we grew up pretty broke in the very early days. The family, like the immediate family, we didn't have much money. Mom had me kind of young. Dad was still trying to figure out a career, and yeah, we bounced around apartment to apartment and relative to relative. While my mom was in school, my dad was truck driving on the road, and I lived everywhere from East Los Angeles to Anaheim, right behind Disneyland, to Rivera in a freaking motel, to my grandmother's house in La Habra, to Whittier. It's like there were so many places. Diamond Bar, Chino.
Mhm.
There was so many places. It was interesting. I never really got used to an apartment. We did it for a year or two, and then we'd bounce and to the next
Yeah.
place. Yeah, it was always kind of like that. So
Did you
definitely,
have did you have a favorite spot that you spent time in?
my grandmother's always.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't everyone's favorite house their grandmother's house?
Hell yeah.
It was
Yeah.
always great there. The eating was the best there.
I was gonna say, is that one of your most formative, like, eating experiences, like a lot of people, their grandmother's house?
Yes, this kind of the origin. That's kind of like where it all began. That's where the love for food actually begins. And I realize this is a lot of people's story. Like a grandmother's, not responsibility, but a grandmother that is partially responsible for introducing love into the kitchen. And my grandmothers and my aunts, they did just that. Interestingly enough, like I was the smallest of all of the male cousins in the family, and there was a lot of us, a ton of us, and we all hung out at grandma's because all of our parents were in similar situations. And my grandmother and my aunt, they used to put out food family style. It was almost like a feeding trough, like big pot of something, come and get it, and I got bullied at the table. It was like I always ended up with a little small plate, and I was a little dude, but I had a huge appetite. And nothing has changed to this day. So, I figured out from a very young age, I was like, well, if I just stay in the kitchen, I'll eat first. If I just stay right here, I don't leave this kitchen, it'll at least take them a couple of minutes to end their game of basketball, freeze tag, whatever they're doing, and I'll eat first. So that worked for a few years and until like the cuteness kind of wore off and they were like, get out of here, go play. And I was like, well, no, 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 what can I do? How can I help? Like, put me to work. Let's do something. So I kind of, strategically tried to stay in the kitchen at that point. And they saw that. And I guess I was handling business. So I kept getting promoted. I went from dishwasher to prep cook to line cook. And eventually at some point I was the sous chef.
But never the head chef, right? That was always your grandma's job, right?
No, you know what? I never was. In that relationship, I think it kind of all ended abruptly. My grandparents lost their house. They were kind of a victim of like an elderly like scam, and some dude, snake oil salesman, ended up putting him on this unbearable interest rate in like a refi, and it just kind of totally burned him. And the situation went downhill really quick from there, and it was very sad because that was the house that we all grew up in. And yeah, it was very painful time for us. But I never actually got to make it to the head chef role. So now when I, like to this day, when I cook for my aunts, my grandmother's no longer here, it's really, really, really special, and it means the world to me.
Any dishes from those days, those, like, hallowed days in La Habra that really stick out in your memory?
Yeah, my grandmother's tuna salad was always incredible. It was like an iceberg tuna salad, mayo, just tuna, but it was just the love and that went into it. My grandma used to make this like she used to make buñuelos. Those were always great. My grandmother came from Texas, so she always had this like this middle America kind of like flair to her food. There was like this um, I'm sorry, did I say Texas? She came from Kansas. Excuse me. She came from Kansas. And she always had this like cool flair to her food. It wasn't normal. I remember there was always a lot of cookbooks laying around. She loved to cook from cookbooks. Um, yeah, her food was always very special. She was a great cook. She passed it down to everyone but my mother. And so my mother was never really the cook, and till much later in life, she's pretty decent now. But just back then, she was never that. That was never her role.
So at this time, did you enjoy the cooking experience? Did you know that you would wanna do this or go into sort of the industry more broadly speaking as a career someday?
Um, not really, but I will say that my mother was I was kind of flash forward to like junior high decade, fifth grade, sixth grade. I was kind of a latchkey child during that time. Me and my little sister, my mom was she was a bodybuilder. And
Hmm.
she would go to the gym, and she every day, same regimen, like 5:30 to 9 p.m. at the gym every day. So she would like, she would set me and my sister up. She didn't just leave us. She would leave me a bag of groceries and, like make this, do this, make some of this, is boil these noodles, throw this marinara on top, and you're eating dinner. So it was always, I was constantly cooking at home, always making stuff. But I don't necessarily know that it was ever like the career path. I wanted to be like a baseball player or a fucking astronaut or like I don't know, like something, something that was just kind of out of the ordinary. It just felt like cooking was just something that I would do, just cook dinner when I got home.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was yeah.
yeah.
We didn't really have like any. we didn't really have like any like professional chefs in the family. We just had good cooks, no professional chefs. So
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Never thought that, but I did. I did start working in restaurants when I was 16 though. Like my first jobs were in restaurants, and that's kind of where it really all, where the love and understanding for hospitality really began for me.
Which restaurants?
The first place I worked was Domino's Pizza. That I don't know if that would call it the
Nice.
hospitality, the hospitality element, but I worked at Domino's and got fired from there. I worked with one of my best friends, and he ended up like I was on the phone with the customer, and he touched my neck with like a hot launcher. He touched the back of my neck while I was on the phone. I ended up like cussing at him, cussing up a storm, yelling. I have a burn on my neck. And then the customer calls the manager. Boom, that was my last day. Domino's
Damn,
Pizza.
that feels like you caught a stray in that one.
I got asked out really good, but he's actually still my buddy to this day. We're good. We've come a long way since the Domino's incident. Then
What were you doing at Domino's? Were you like stretching out the dough and like, building pizzas and stuff?
I never got to dough. The manager was like, he was like a dough assassin. He was so good. He would just be tossing dough and flinging it. He had all the flair. Like I never even bothered. I was like, I'm just gonna do the pepperoni and cheese, bro. Like you're really into that dough over there. So it just was like put it in the oven, take the orders, put the toppings on. That was always kind of my deal there anyway. Yeah, until I worked at my neck pizza joint was actually in Whittier. So I worked at a place called Barrow's Pizza, which is more of like it's family owned, a pizza joint, just very much in the style of like I don't know, I call them like fucking like baseball after baseball party, after baseball
Yeah.
game, after soccer game pizzas. It's a very specific type of pie. It's not
It's
great
like
either.
Petrillo's in SGV, like that style or what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very dense dough. No instant yeast. No time for that dough to do anything. We're cranking out pies and we're cranking out volume. And that's kind of the priority in any in those pies. Um, but it was a style like that, but it was good. The toppings were placed meticulously. The sausages were all like it was like ground sausage, and we would I guess pat them, get them real flat and put them on the pie. So it was, kind of loose. All the vegetables were cut fresh there. It was a good pie for what I knew during the time. Ignorance is bliss, and it was great for me. I had a lot of responsibilities there. Everything from fucking, we were stretching dough there. I was toppings, taking orders. It's you name it. That's kind of where all like the misfit kids work too. All the stoners, they all kind of worked at that pizza place. They were the drivers, my fellow pizza makers. And everyone after work would just go smuggle a fat one in the parking lot after, and it didn't matter what age you were, you had to beer in your hand after work. Yeah, so it was cool. It was a cool job. It was cool.
It's a good way to grow up. So is that place still around, Barrows?
Yeah, it is actually. Barrow's actually burned down. It was crazy. It burned down, and interestingly enough, this is a cool story of like, but it's part of it ties in Uptown Provisions. Like Barrow's burns down, and I'm on. It had already reopened, but I'm on OfferUp trying to scrounge together pieces for Uptown Provisions. I need a prep table, and I'm looking for a prep table. I'm like, and I see this one beautiful like 12-foot butcher block table. I'm like, oh my God, that table is gorgeous. So I go with like full intention of lowballing this man on this table. I'm like, I'm just gonna offer him a couple $100 and take this table. So I get to this house and I start looking at this table. I'm like, man, this is dope. And I ask him like, dude, where'd you get this thing? He's like, it's from Barro's Pizza. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, it's from Barro's Pizza. And I was like, interesting. I'm like, where'd you get it? He's like, well, when the fire happened, this was the only thing that was left, and George let me take it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you know how many pizzas I made on this table? So I then tell him, I was like, I didn't even have to like feel, but I told him, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take your hands and I want you to place them under the table right now. He looked at me kind of weird, and he was like, "What do you mean?" Like, place them under the table. I'm like, "Do you feel those finger grips under the table?" He's like, yes. I'm like, those finger grips are from years of George yelling at us while we're making pizzas, telling us to go faster. And those are all just everyone's stress right there. You can feel it. Everyone's actually like the indentures of their fingers underneath the table waiting for pies. And they're still there to this day. So anyway, I end up
That's
bu-
crazy.
I know. So I end up, I'm like, you know what, dude? I came here to. I told him, I came here to lowball you on this thing, but I'll give you what you want for it, you know. So he ended up giving like $50 more for it. Take it. It's in my store to this day. So
So y'all are making sandwiches on the same table you were making pizzas on back in the day.
when I was 16, yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So it's
funny how
kind of
life comes full circle like
it
that
really is.
sometimes.
It really is. And that thing was in his store since the 80s. You see this thing is solid steel, and it's heavy as hell. It took like five guys to lift it. The butcher block is like they don't make butcher block like that anymore. But yeah, it's such a beautiful piece. I would imagine that piece is at least 50 years old at this, 50, 55 years at this point. So it's cool to have it
Yeah.
there. And I always kind of show my team that, I'm like, I'll once in a while I'll be like, they're like, you're being mean. I'm like, you think this is mean? Why don't you fill under this table? And yeah, yeah. No. So
You're like, you ain't seen mean until you work with George, and George is
George,
yelling at you, and it
George,
causes you to grip a table and make dents in steel. Now that's mean, yeah.
yeah.
Um, so you're at Barrows, you're what, 16 years old, 17 years
Sit,
old at this point?
no, I'm still, 60. Domino's was very short-lived. Domino's was very short-lived. So I was still 16 during that time. Yeah,
Yeah.
still 16.
And so you continue to work in restaurants and I mean,
Yeah,
your background is really, if I'm not mistaken, as a mixologist. At what point did you
yeah.
start getting that bug?
So, I guess if we if we back up before that, I was in the service. I was in the Air Force. I was there for 4 years. I worked in intelligence, and it was quite the 4 years. I did a lot of traveling, a lot of growing. I didn't want to go to college after high school. It just wasn't for me. I just was kind of burnt on school. Just wanted to like do something. I wanted to get out of the house. I wanted a little structure, but I didn't want it to be school.
Mhm.
Went down to the old recruiting station, and I was like, what can I do? And they're like, well, you can take this test and we can figure it out. So I end up taking this test, doing damn good on it. They're like, you can do anything you want. I'm like, cool. They ended up giving me the whole book. They're like, you can pretty much do anything but fly a plane. I'm like, cool. So end up end up choosing this career. I'm like, well, like there's an option to be a photographer in the Air Force. I'm like, excuse me, I can go like take photos and shit. I'm like, I've been doing this in high school. I took photography in high school the whole time. Like, I'd love to just go to the Air Force and be a photographer. How cool. So I think so here I am thinking I got this cake ass job. And then I go down to my screening before they're about to ship my ass off to boot camp, and they're like, hey, did you know that you have a color deficiency? I'm like, I don't have a color deficiency. I see everything. So they're like, no, you have like a green white color deficiency. Like you don't see the same saturation as everyone else. I'm like, first off, that's bullshit. I was like, I see green just fine. I've never had any trouble. And they're like, no, that's not what our test tells us. They gave me that, the little like, have you ever had like a color test? There's like the little dots, and you have to like
No.
So it's like a big circle, and inside the circle there's a bunch of smaller dots, and you have to be able to read the number that's within the dots. And like you can be able to see like a 13 or a 9 or something like that. And I couldn't do it. And I was like, I think it's just my brain. Like it's just an optical illusion in my brain. I don't think it has anything to do with my vision. They're like, no, this is actually a
Mhm.
vision thing. So basically, I ended up getting disqualified for the job that I was super stoked on. I had no fallback plan at all whatsoever. I'm like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do now here? So they're like, okay, well, you can do, anything that doesn't require you to not to have a color deficiency. I'm like, great. So I ended up going to school for like computer engineering. I was like, well, I'm going to be an engineer, I guess. I'm going to go learn how to like design like computer network infrastructures, and I'm going to go learn how to, build these huge deployable security systems. So I ended up doing that and working under like top secret SSBI, SSBI, FBI clearance in Korea behind a vault. and I'm doing that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm 18. I'm 18, dude. I'm fucking 18. I'm doing this, and
18 and you moved to Korea.
18. I'm living in Korea. 18, maybe like 19 at that point. But yeah, I'm not much. I'm a very young 19 if I'm 19 at that point. So
It's
yeah,
it's a long way from Barrows.
it was a long way from Bar. It was a really long way from Barrows.
What was that like? I mean, I'm assuming you were, I mean, I actually have no idea. Were you pretty confined to work, or did you get to go out and kind of explore?
Nah, this is dope. This is fucking super dope. So like, because of like this, because of like, I guess we'll say my level of intelligence in the unit that I was put in, I was the only myself and my boss, who at that time he was like a staff sergeant, I think, and I was an airman, a lowly airman at that time, and him and I and the whole unit that I was in, we lived off base in a hotel. Um,
Hmm.
and I had all the money in the world. I mean, for a 19-year-old anyway, I was making
Yeah.
dope money. Like that for the past year, I had been in school stacking paychecks, free meals in the cafeteria every day. Nothing to spend anything on except stupid tattoos. There was nothing for me to buy. So I had, I moved to Korea. I had at least like 15 grand in the bank. And for a 19-year-old kid, that was more than I ever had. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is cool. This works for me. So living off base, going out every night. I already liked to drink. That was always fun for me. So I would go out to these bars and we would drink soju. So these soju bars were insane. It's like you're embracing like this Korean like nightlife party culture, which is half GI, but also half people that live in this busy town. So everyone's drinking like Korean soju, which is basically formaldehyde, and it has like this delayed effect on you. It's not like alcohol where you're feeling the effects like instantly. It's more like eating an edible, to where like you eat the fucking edible and like 30 minutes later you're goners. But this is what was happening to all my friends. We'd be drinking and we'd be leaving the bar, and I had friends dropping. I'm like, dude, you were fine 10 minutes ago when we were drinking. Now you're on the ground. Um, so yeah,
Because you've pounded a bunch of soju thinking, man, this shit is weak. I'm not feeling it at all.
they,
And then all of a sudden it hits you like a ton of bricks.
they were called ammo bowls, ammunition bowls, and they came in every flavor. It was this big bowl with a bunch of straws in it, and it came in every flavor, every varietal you ever imagine, every color. I guess this is my first exposure to craft cocktails, right? Yeah. So this was kind of it, doing this, and then the craziest fucking thing, the streets that we were on, all the hotels, all the bars, and there were these beautiful brick streets. They were very clean, and you would get out of the bars, and there was food vendors every 3 feet, just stacked. You're just like bobbing and weaving through food vendors trying to go home. Everyone's selling everything you can imagine, from bootleg McDonald's to meat on a stick to and every fried food item you can imagine. So you tried it all. You tried the mystery meats. You kind of tried it all. Whenever you're ahead at home, sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But
Do you have any standouts from those experiences?
yeah, there was a bootleg McDonald's. That one always comes to mind first. It was like this guy that drew the McDonald's arches, and he served burgers and fries, and that was kind of always
But it was just like burger and fries. Like other than that, it wasn't giving McDonald's in any other
no,
way.
no, not at all, not at all. But I got to eat, I guess introduced to all the traditional, but bachan and like the Korean foods during that time, and yeah, it was special. It was a really interesting experience. That's for
How
sure.
many years were you there?
I was there about 3.5 years. I did 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I ended up coming home about 6 months early. I had a death in the family, so I just kind of lost my mind, really. Just couldn't do it anymore. They gave me the option. I lost my little sister. She passed away. And
Oh man,
yeah, I was 21 and she was 18. She died in a very tragic car accident, very abruptly. Um,
I'm sorry about that.
yeah, it was not fun. But yeah, I just decided at that point, like, I've done what I want to do here. This is the chapter of my life. This is not the full story. So I know a lot of people that go to the service and they make it the full story. You know, it's like I'm gonna go to the army. I'm gonna go to the service. I'm gonna have a house. I'm gonna retire as an army sergeant. And I'm like, yeah, fuck that. You know, like there's a lot of life to live. And I think when you lose someone special to you, you really realize
Hmm.
that quick. You're like, dude, like this shit it could all end tomorrow. Like I need to just really enjoy this. I don't want. I'm not content with exactly what this is. I need to find out what this life is about. So
Do you think if that hadn't happened, you may have continued in the army? Was that sort of like a fork in the road moment for
the Air
you?
Force, I mean, like you know, like I think that like honestly, no, no, I probably would have been done either way at that 4 years. I'll be honest, like you know, when I got it, when like the career thing had already been over. I was living in like up in like a small town above Davis, called Vacaville.
Mm.
And I was living with all these kind of like similar like Southern California kids. They're all punkers and skaters deep down inside. And we had a house off base and we were all combining our money. And, you know, we had way too much money. And we were, you know, we were partying maybe a little too much, you know, during that time, drinking a lot. It was a pretty toxic house, I must say. We were doing our thing, but we go to San Francisco every weekend, go, you know, go eat, go drink, go party. Sacramento was right there too. Go there, go snowboarding in Lake Tahoe. There was just a lot of really cool things happening for us, and I think that the Air Force part of it was very low on our priorities outside of a paycheck, and just you know we kind of had done our thing already. All my buddies had done multiple you know deployments and everything, and I think we all kind of shared the common consensus that it was time. We were just biding the rest of it until it was time to go home.
And so now you're what, 21 years old and you're moving back down to Southern California?
Yeah, yeah. I am.
Did you have a something to do in mind, or was it really just get down there and figure it out?
So I came back and my stepfather, who had been working for Kaiser, he got me in this job with Kaiser, like in the IT department. And I immediately felt like, you know, I got there and I did this maybe for like 2, 3 weeks, and I was like, this job is not for me. This job is weird. This is like everyone here has really poor hygiene and they're not happy with their life and they're eating cheesy puffs in their fucking chair, and it's just this isn't it. This is not it, dude. Like there's more there's once again there's more to life than this. Um,
Then cheesy puffs at Kaiser.
yeah. And then I got this job at this this computer microchip processing company. I thought it was okay. Maybe I just need to change the venue here. No, it didn't help either. It was the same shit. Just probably worse though, because the you know it was yeah, it just wasn't better. Tech companies weren't that. Tech companies were not what they are now back then. So let's put that out there. It's just like man, like tech
Yeah.
companies are so cool to work for. They give you everything. And that back then it was just like let's just shove these guys in the server room and we can have them fucking do their thing all day.
Are we
Um,
talking about like what, early 2000s here, mid or mid
Yeah.
2000s?
Yeah. Early 2000s. You know, it just wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, it was different. But a cool thing was I was living like on the Newport coast though, which was great. I got home and my buddy was like, "Hey, I got my dad just got me this apartment and like I need a roommate. You want to come live with me?" I was like, "Bro, I can't afford to live on the Newport coast. You're tripping, dude." And he's like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, he'll take care of it. So, his dad was like the head of like the furniture division for like Samsonite, like the office furniture division. And I was like, well, what are we gonna put in?
Wow.
What are we gonna put in this place? Dude, like we don't like we have this beautiful apartment that's like on the back bay of Newport. Like, what are we gonna do? He's like, no worries, we'll go to my dad's warehouse. So we walk into his dad's like huge warehouse in Hacienda Heights, and he gives us a pat up with some post-its. And he's like, hey, why don't you go ahead and put a post-it on everything you want? I'm like, are you sure? So we're just putting post-its on all this shit. And then like he's like, okay, cool. It'll all be at your house. It'll all be at your house on Friday. Sure enough, this huge delivery truck pulls up and the whole house is furnished.
With office furniture?
It was like nice. It was like you know like Italian leather sofas and like beautiful
Wow.
like glass coffee tables and you know like perfect desks in both rooms. You know chairs, you name it. It was a little bit of everything.
And you were still working in the server room at this point.
Yeah. I was still doing that. I was still doing that, and ended up that was kind of like it was a different. I was working for a different company in like South Orange County at that time, but yeah, I ended up calling. That was like kind of the last straw. I was like, you know what, this ain't it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. At that point, I was like, I started I guess reanalyzing, like, and thinking about things. I was like, well, you know what, dude, like, what does make you happy? What do you want to do, man? Like, what's the move for you? And I kept thinking about food. I was cooking a lot during the time. I was like, dude, food makes you happy. It's exciting. It's fresh. You're always the first one at the party to hop in the kitchen. Like, I think there might be something there. Didn't know what it was, didn't have a path, but I was like, I'm gonna just see if I can get like a fine dining job and see what happens from there. Ended up marching on down to Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and
Oh
yeah, go
yeah.
to Ruth Chris, and they're opening a brand new one in Anaheim by the convention center, and they hired me. The manager was a veteran. He liked me. We got along well, and he was like, "You want to work?" I was like, "Yeah, let's work." And ended up being a food runner. I was like a food runner there, and worked there for some time, and it was dope. I really enjoyed that job. Got to learn a lot about cuts of meat and just different preparations of food, and I liked being that close to the kitchen as opposed to being that close to the guests. I was like, well, I'm kind of like seeing the process of the line working, and I'm running food out. I'm still getting a little guest interaction, but not too much. Um, and there was all the hours I needed there, plenty of hours there. So I did that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did that, and then ended up being like a waiter there. Not for a little bit, and yeah, that was that. And then my dad got sick. My old man got sick. Yeah, man, I'm kind of reliving this story. That's cool. Um,
Dude, this is I feel like in life we do this
yeah,
so little. Like think about our journey, and honestly, it doesn't even so much happens that we don't even realize what's happening as it's happening. Sometimes when you just
yeah,
sit down and live
yeah,
through it, you're like, "Holy
yeah,
fuck, this is all
yeah,
like."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, like my dad got sick, and we ended up like he needed some help like living, and we ended up getting like this apartment together. We ended up living together in Whittier, and I was like, okay, I got to get a local job now. What am I going to do that's kind of like, I guess, similar to Ruth Chris? So I ended up working at this steakhouse not too far on the border of Pico Rivera and Whittier, and it's still to this day. It's called the Del Rey. And the Del Rey,
Mhm.
yeah,
I've heard of
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's a very like classic Americana steakhouse. Um, and I go in there, and I may have lied a little bit about my experience. I was like, oh yeah, I was waiting tables at Whiskers forever, and I know all this about wine, and I know a little bit, but I just ended up kind of faking it there. And they're like, cool, we'll give you a shot. So I'm the only male waiter there amongst like 25 female waiters. It was insane. Some of them had been there for 30 years, some had been there for 15 years, but it was like they were also pushing and demanding. But the cool part about the Del Rey, it was the tableside service of everything that I learned. So
Mhm.
I'm over here like in full maitre d' mode, whipping up 17 ingredient Caesar salads, tableside, uh, cherries Jubilee, steak Diane, pepper steaks, duck a la orange, bananas Foster's, just doing all this shit tableside. And I got good at it. I had some flair behind it. And I had so much fun with that shit. And to me, that's what kind of kept me ticking on that job. I was like, man, this is cool. I get to like light shit on fire and flambe things on the table. And what I didn't know is I actually was learning kind of a lost art. That early
Yeah.
Americana like steakhouse vibe, like they don't that white glove service. It's not really a thing anymore. It was like a rich.
The sort of like dinner is theater too, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's so funny because kind of aren't we kind of seeing that on Instagram now, like this resurgence of like everything has to have this like show and be done tableside, even if it makes no damn sense at all.
That's exactly what it is. We're like, all of these like Instagram dishes that get popular, it's almost like I feel like the ones that really take off are the ones that almost have like an element of magic to
Yeah,
them. Like, do you remember that fucking like feta
yeah,
pasta that like really took
yeah,
off? It's just like you just throw in like tomatoes, feta, and pasta into like a sheet
yeah.
pan, and it makes this like
Yep.
delicious
Uh-huh.
dish. And I feel like that's the same thing with the tableside service. It's like, oh man, we're actually going to see how the sausage gets made, and this magic's going to come to life right in front of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really something.
And so was that so you like the tableside service of it? Was that also sort of like getting your wheels turning in terms of like I might enjoy not just being a server, but actually getting my hands dirty and making stuff as well?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I guess I was like simultaneously developing this craft, it was like, okay, great, I know I can make this Caesar at home. I know I can do this. I know I can do this. And I've always been like, I guess, pretty avid like home cook, and I was doing that, on the side at home. And but like I was also really comfortable. Don't get it twisted. I was very comfortable with the money I was making as a waiter, and especially when I looked at the quality of life from the line cook to the waiter. I was like, well, I'm pretty cool with getting off work at a decent hour with a pocket full of money and the bar being down the street. I can make this work.
When you put it like that, it makes absolutely no sense to be in the kitchen.
It's like I was like, nah, I'm cool. These guys are fighting in the kitchen. They're all fucking on meth on their break, and they're all doing stupid shit. Like they're all, they come out of work and they're going crazy. I look at them. They're hot. And they're all like sweaty and shit. I'm like, I don't know if I want that line cook life, especially in an environment like that. You're working like in like old guard, like kitchen in there since the early 70s. Like that's not the kitchen you want to work in. I promise you. It's like the
Yeah.
the owner's a dick. The owner's
Yeah.
yelling at everyone. The chef's an asshole. Like I'm like, I don't want that.
It's like the characterization of like the toxic kitchen environment that you hear
Oh,
about all the time,
it's like
right?
the epitome of it. It's like the ground the ground center of that. Um, but like I started also like during that time, like I saw a lot of cool like bartending at Ruth Chris, and it was kind of like this '90s like this the end of like this like '90s like flair thing that is completely outdated at this point. But what I did learn at the Del Rey was they had a bartender named Barry there, classic bartender named Barry, like an Italian Jersey
Yeah.
dude, sly, maybe a little past his prime, but he was still doing all right for himself. Knew how to make a mean martini. Um,
I'll tell you what, Barry never thought he was past his prime. I'll
Barry,
guarantee you that.
Barry was never past his prime. He probably still doesn't think that. He refuses. Um, but one thing I learned from like I would watch, I wasn't in bartender mode yet, but I was always fascinated with how he worked the room. Like Barry was so good at working a room and like working the bar and making everyone feel special and important and having the art of cutting the conversation, moving to the next guest, but not making you feel like you got shortchanged on Barry's time. And I always thought that was cool. I
Hmm.
was like, man, that's so cool how he does that. I would just study him. And I was like, man, like if I ever get this opportunity, like I'm gonna take some notes from Barry and just kind of do some of his shit. So it always stuck in my head.
Where did you go from there? What did you do? So you're back in Whittier now. You're at the
Yeah.
Del Rey.
So
Long
yeah,
Island.
so then I start work. So I was like, that I think that this experience there kind of like led me to alcohol. That was the one that was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ex explore some nightlife. That sounds cool. Go check that out. See how that goes for me. And end up working at some different bars in downtown Fullerton. Started as a bar back, pouring, turned into like a pouring bar back, ended becoming like a maitre d' of a nightclub. End up like getting taught how to bartend a little bit there. And then I'm getting really into bartending, just kind of learning the craft. And, this is kind of right around the time where I think we're having like this, like, this early, like 2000, what, six, maybe like craft cocktail resurgence, like this early
Hmm.
prohibition kind of resurgence. And I tell the owner, I was like, hey, this would be cool. Maybe we can like, I was reading these books, maybe try incorporating this fresh lime into things, maybe try this mint, this muddled cucumber situation. And he basically tells me, he's like, no, that's not what we do here. He's like, maybe that's like some LA shit. And we need to go to LA. I'm like, huh, cool. That sounds great. That sounds fun. Yeah, I'll go to LA.
So you're like, I'll go to LA. Why
Yeah, why
not?
not, dude? Why not? So I end up getting a job with Gordon Ramsay at the London Hotel.
Did you have to lie to get that
Yeah.
job too? Yeah, because you said you lied on your resume to get the Del
Yeah.
Rey one, which was so funny to me because it's like if you try to do that these days, like everybody can just look you up.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like all your shit
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
online.
exactly. Yeah.
You can't do that
No, no,
anymore.
I didn't, but um, I was told right when I got there that I was underqualified for the job. They're like, "Yeah, you've never worked like in a major market." I'm like, "A major market? I worked in a fucking nightclub, bro. Like, how like it fits more people in this. Like, what are you talking about?" And like I mean,
Yeah.
I realize it's not like West Hollywood, but like, I'll figure it out. So sure enough, they ended up like hiring me as like a waiter there. I wanted to bartend. They're like, "No, you can be a waiter here." I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." So I ended up being a waiter there, learning so much about food and wine. I mean, and also I got brought into a two Michelin star restaurant at that time. Yeah,
Right.
so I maybe I was. And thinking back, maybe I was a little bit of my league in the situation, but I had some charm and like I knew how to get through tables and I knew how to appease people and I could remember information real well and cocktail and I love food. So it's like I can talk about food all damn day. You want to talk about short ribs? What do you want to talk about? So, I did well there and it was a similar situation there. Like I had like I was making like $600 a night, like 500 to $800 a night there every night. Selling just really dope, vintage Bordeaux, and people came there to spend money to eat, and everyone's leaving 20% on it. So, it's selling dope wine,
Yeah.
selling, uh, fucking corporate cards were fucking flying around here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty cool. Working for Gordon Ramsay over there, learning everything about food. And then
Real quick. How often is Gordon Ramsay at the restaurant?
when I started, he was there. He was up in there. And then like a month later, he had sold the likeness of his name to the group, to the hospitality group that I was a part of. So he cashed out, didn't have to be there, had a full-time room there. He'd come down for like dinner with his kids. His kids are awesome. Come down for dinner. Yeah, and then yeah, he would that was kind of it. That was it. But that's when I met one of my good friends. His name's Phil Pretty, and he's a chef there. He was the sous chef, and Phil he's all tatted, and I was like, this is my people, this is my tribe right here. I like this guy. He was kind of like had this like this hip hop kind of punk rock attitude that was like it was cool, man. But he was super fucking talented in the kitchen. I was like, I like this guy. I want to know more about this cat. And we ended up having lots of beers after work and stuff all the time. And he offered me a job in the kitchen. He's like, man, he's like, you're dope, dude. You want to work in the kitchen? I was like, sorta, like I do, but like this money thing. Once again, like I like the money I make right now. So I didn't give in
Mm-hmm.
again. Didn't give in. But flash forward, Phil has a sandwich shop, or he had a sandwich shop in Long Beach and now it's a restaurant called Heritage.
Though
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
won a big award,
he
right?
won a star. He won a star, dude. He's like I said, Phil's an amazing chef.
That's
We've been
crazy.
boys ever since, and I followed his journey, and we've been, he's had his trajectory. I've had mine, and it's like, it's cool to see your friends win, and and especially knowing like his humble beginnings, of just grinding in that kitchen over there and doing his thing. Anyway,
It's
yeah. So
really
after
cool.
that, I worked at Soho House for a little bit, where I got kind of introduced a little bit more into the bartending world, and then I worked at I reopened Hotel Bel Air with Wolfgang Puck. Yeah, I'm just like learning, just taking in all this food information, just learning so much. By this time, I have all this food knowledge. I worked under, Chef Lee, who is the chef of no, I'm sorry, of Spago. Just running cocktails
Mm-hmm.
past him, learning more about, drinks from him or food, his philosophy, everything from him. And that was really something right there.
So at this point, you've pretty much worked your way from being a
Yeah,
server
yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah,
bar. Is
exactly.
that correct?
Yeah. So we're doing that. And then I got then I ended up like my homie, my one of my best friends to this day still, Aaron, he ends up getting this gig at this place called Plan Check. And Planchik is on Sawtell,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, dude, do you want to come? I know you got some things going on right now, but like, I got this. I just become the GM of this place. I need a bar manager." I'm like, "Bar manager?" I'm like, "Well, let me check it out." So I ended up going to Planchek and doing my thing at Planchek, working with.
That was like the hottest gastropub in
It
Los Angeles for
was.
like
It
solid
was.
5 years
It
there in the
was,
late
dude. And the
2000s.
food. I mean, I can't. I mean, dude, I don't know if you ever had Ernesto's food, but
Oh yeah,
oh
their
my
burger's
God, it was
legendary.
incredible. And he would bake those buns, dude. Like, he would put like he'd make his own American cheese and put dashi into the American cheese. Making the super. He'd make this ketchup leather. All his like
Yeah. That's what I remember, the
dude,
ketchup leather. That was what they were
insane.
famous
And then
for.
his beef grind was like super meticulous on that. The bun was perfect. Like, there was like it was that burger was nuts, nuts. And I would.
Is
It is,
Planchek
and
still around?
he ended up like they ended up like selling the company off. The owner was named Terry Heller, and his dad started Ruthless Records, and you would never expect
Oh,
just
no
a
way.
Jewish white dude, Jewish super white dude. His dad started Ruthless Records, and he brought Easy E to the light. All these rappers. It was insane. But anyway, back to Ernesto though. Ernesto made the dopest chicken sandwich. Like I will say, Ernesto's chicken sandwich to this day holds weight in any conversation. It was so killer. The pimento cheese spread that he
Yeah.
did on there was brilliant.
And this was before the fried chicken sandwich was like was
Oh my
like
God.
hot
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
zeitgeist.
Everything he was in, his veggie burger was insane. Like, this dude really went off on that project. But Ernesto also, he started Umami Burger too. He ended up getting the recipes kind of pulled out from under him, and a lot of credit didn't go to him. But he is the mind behind Umami Burger.
Which also was
I
revolutionary
mean,
when it
yeah,
first
that
started.
was the burger, right? Umami, like Umami was dope back then. I haven't been in a long time. I
Yeah.
probably don't want to go. I don't want to see what it is to this day. But it's kind of like it reminds me of like Father's Office. Like I had this like very like cool memory of like what Father's Office was. But I remember during like pandemic things, like I went there. I was like, this is these people are dicks. Like, what do you have to be? Why are you guys pretentious? Like,
Yeah.
what is your deal? If I had friends tell me how like they kicked their kid out, like during COVID, like they said like their kid couldn't sit outside on the sidewalk because it was 21 and over. It's like, dude, you guys serve burgers. Come on, man. Like it's on the street. Like, get real.
I remember I went to Plan Check because this was like the thing in like the late
Yeah,
2000s, early 2010s was like these hot
yeah,
like gastropubs serving like chefy
right.
burgers basically. And Father's Office, Plan Check,
Yeah.
Umami Burger. These were like the spots. And
Hmm.
I remember I really wanted to go to Father's Office when I
Yeah,
first moved to LA, like 2009, 2010. I was 18 years old though, so I
oh
couldn't
man.
get in anywhere. So I literally would just roll up there, order the burger, and literally do what you just said, sit on the
Yeah,
sidewalk like a loser, like while all these people are waiting in
yeah,
line behind me. And it was 100% worth it. But yeah, I haven't had it in like
yeah,
15 years
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point.
That's something, huh? Oh yeah, that's definitely the start of that
Yeah.
whole scene for sure.
So did you get to create the cocktail menu at Plan
No, I
Check?
just maintain. I just oversaw it. They actually still have the same cocktail menu there to this day. And a
Hmm.
friend of mine named Pablo Moy, who is responsible for Dama, for I mean, what are the ones? Scopa, all these other
Mm-hmm. So the
the
Antonia
the beverage
Lafazo
portion of all of
group.
that. And Pablo he's an absolute genius. He's just insane with his cocktail knowledge, his spirit knowledge. He had Old Lightning in the back, which is probably the most impressive spirit collection I've ever seen in my life. It's so impressive that he actually you go in that bar, he rotates out the spirit collections. Like he'll do like it's not enough room for
Hmm.
all his alcohol. He'll have he'll have his whole tequila collection on display to purchase one week for a month, and then next week it's like I don't know all his scotches, all his whiskeys, and he really did it right. And then he did a bunch of other bars, but before that, so he kind of created that original menu, and he did an incredible gig at it. So I just kind of maintained it, but that's kind of where I was really like honing the tools, and there that's a very pivotal point in my career. I like to preface this. This is a very important part of like what shaped me. A because I was working under Ernesto, like as a chef. he was so critical of everything. He wanted to taste everything. I got to make specials every day. I got to make anything that, every day I created a special, and we would run it, and they were supportive about it. But this is where, to me, it was really cool, because this is where technique met personality. And it's like I was over here
Hmm.
tuning this, but also like putting my own influence into things, like my own experiences, my own background. And, I think we lose that today. People just like they want to go straight into their personality and put this on a menu. It's like, well, dude, develop the
Yeah.
techniques, develop the initial, the baseline culture of what you're trying to accomplish here, and then put your personality into it, and then see the meat. And then you
Yeah.
build your style. um, and that's where I really got to do that. And doing it, working on it, learning, bringing in my Chicano, like Mexican roots into things, just bringing in ingredients from home. But also being like on Sawtell, being conscious of that. Like, I'm gonna go to the Japanese market and grab this, whatever, and put this into this cocktail. But also, grab this habanero, and grab a little bit of, whatever else I find, and then bring it all together into
Hmm.
this cool drinks. So, yeah, end up doing that. Um, there was a dude named Yuval who lived across the street, and he had worked at like Milk and Honey in New York, and all these other bars. And he would come in, and he was always, he was kind of, I guess, like, scouting me for some time. And he ended up like getting a job with us. He's like, I want to pick up a shift. I was like, cool. So he ends up showing me all this stuff. I'm like the bar manager, but I'm also getting this training from him. He had like this like cool New York, like
Yeah.
PDT, Death and Co, like Milk and Honey, Sasha Petrosky training. And like I was like, man, you know so much. You're so elegant how you do things. The way you combine flavors, the way you work a bar is really special. So with him, he was like, hey, dude, like, I got this other, I'm opening this bar in Glendale. In Glendale, it's called Neat. And it was basically with the owner of like, I'm sorry, the guy who created the Edison. And I was like, cool. I was like, well, I was like,
Mm.
what are you thinking? He's like, you want to come pick up some shifts? You'll learn a lot there. I think that, like, you kind of max out your skills here, and then, you come work with some really advanced older bartenders. You might actually like, you can make this a career. I'm like, wow, cool, let's do it. So end up going over to Neat, and Neat was really interesting. It was such a crazy concept. So basically, everything came on this tray. You had a tray that had two little like holders on it, one for your base spirit, and then another one for your sidecar. So nothing was actually combined.
Hmm.
So the objective with this was to be able to create something that could go either way. You could go spirit to mixer, or mixer to spirit on this. So we were getting crazy. Like, I would create like this modifier cocktail, like for instance, like a Manhattan. I would create like this Americano cocktail, but then I would pair the Americano cocktail with like this beautiful like glass of like a weeded bourbon or something like that, and it would just work so
Yeah.
well. Or you'd make like this whiskey sour, and you'd do like I don't know, you'd add like a Pinot sherry, or you'd add some sort of like white vermouth, blanc vermouth into it or something, and then you'd pair it back
Hmm.
with this gin, like this really fun aromatic London dry gin. But it really made the guests think, and I think this concept was way, way ahead of its time.
I was gonna say, is this like something that a
Y-
bartender like dreams about doing and then
Yeah.
finally gets to do it, and maybe it's a little too advanced for the
Yeah,
consumer?
well, that was part of it, like breaking it down to the consumer. Like, it was really like it was all bespoke. There was no menu here. It was everything you did was bespoke in this bar. So it was a really dark bar in the back of Glendale, very swanky bar. And in my time there, things really went downhill. Like, a lot of the staff left. The
Hmm.
owner, I could talk about this now because he's improved his life dramatically, but he had a drinking problem, and it was probably the most toxic, but also the most fun environment I've ever worked in my life. Um, we really enjoyed it. We all let's put it, we all ate from the tree, and we closed the doors at 2 a.m. and we'd party and wake up at 8 and start cleaning. and this was every night. This is every
Yeah.
night of this life, and it got messy and to the point where like we didn't have any more inventory. Like we were just kind of functioning on like promo bottles and whatever else we would go get. So in like my last like probably like 6 to 8 months there, um, you would pop up like you'd get there and you'd like go into like the prep room in the back. You'd pop up a ceiling tile and that's where the drop was from the night before. And then you would just grab what you needed
Mhm.
of money. You go to the Armenian market and you go shop. You go like, okay, I need to get some of this lemon basil. I need some lemons. You'd see what kind of fruit they have. Maybe they have some prickly pears. Maybe they have some, some fresh like cherries, which they always had. Um, they have some really fun nuts that you can go make an orgeat with. And that was interesting. But what I didn't really fully understand. Man, I kind of looked at this like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, I'm really like, we're really scraping by. But I was also developing this like skill set of being resourceful. It's like, damn, like I got to create a menu every night in this place. So get there at 3:30. We open the bar, at three, two
Yeah.
thirty, and the bar opens at 5. It's like you go to the Armenian market, and they actually shopped really well in that Armenian market. The produce buyer was A plus. So it was a good selection. You would go there, just pick up what you wanted. You go back, you type up your little menu in the back, and then you print it, 5 cocktails, and that's what you serve for the night. And people would come far and wide, and you have a bar full of people. You'd be making cocktails, you'd be DJing on the side right there, with your little iPod, playing whatever you wanted. Yeah, it was really something right there. And
And how long so what year was this? How long did Neat stay
I
open?
think Neat kind of crumbled like not too long after I left. And to tell you the truth, I can't even remember a year at this point. But it was there for some time. And Neat saw some really good days, and then I just happened to be there at the very end of them, and then kind of carry it through, the end of its life.
That was sort of like your you PhD
It
in
was
cocktail making, basically,
Yeah, it
after
was a
plan
PhD
check,
in just
right?
like, just understanding drunk humans and PhD and in just like learning how to like, create menus on the fly and learning how to, work while intoxicated. Um, yeah, it was really something. It was quite that was like a very important part of my whole career. So then
And what did you are we jumping way ahead when we get to Salazar?
There's probably like three experiences before Salazar, and I can kind of briefly summarize them. Basically, I opened the first really intense, like, I worked with a guy who started Deathing Company. His name was Phil Ward. Phil Ward, he was a New York bartender,
Mhm.
ended up having a bar called Maya Well. He came to LA, he opened a bar in downtown proper, opened his bar for him. It was very short-lived, but we had probably the most impressive tequila mezcal selection. These beautiful cocktails that were very New York oriented. They were really special. They were dope. And that bar didn't live very long. I had this huge prep room, and it just never came. That project never really materialized.
Can I ask why some of these, like, really ambitious
It was
bars
huge. It was
fail? Is it
huge.
is it because it's big, it's too
It's
expensive to
just
run, it's just hard to
it only
sustain,
takes
or what?
one little thing to throw everything off. For instance, like this place, it was such an open, and like if it was empty, like you could have 15 people at the bar, but if you're looking at a 3,500 square foot space, it looks empty. It looks nothing. And then all the windows around the whole
Yeah.
place where you could see it, you could see inside the bar. So people didn't actually have to come in to really understand what was going on. They could just walk by, like, oh, no one's really there. Let's go to the next bar, and then they
Mhm.
didn't come back. So we had some good times there. Yeah,
Vibes are so important with bar. Like, I just went to a bar on
hmm
Sunset called, Bar
yeah,
Next Door, just opened,
yeah.
and, awesome cocktails. I was really floored by their menu
Yeah,
and, like, what some of the stuff they were doing. And
yeah.
but what
So
strikes me
little.
is how small it is, and I think you're kind of seeing that. You're seeing, like, that, you're
Love
seeing
Capri. Love that
Capri
place.
Club and Eagle Rock, like, all
Yeah,
these really small bars that are and that's probably by design too. It's like a lot, you want the bar to feel full, you want it to
Yeah,
feel alive, and it's
yeah.
just a
Bar
lot
next
easier to
door
do with a small
was a
bar.
pizza joint when I was working at the London Hotel. It was a pizza joint, and that's you're talking about the one on the corner of and Sunset, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
right near Soho House. It's
yeah,
like
it's
right
across the
next
street
door to where Prince Street
from
Pizza is.
the London Hotel. It's right below it. Yeah, yeah. I would go there and drink Sam Adams on my
Yeah.
break and eat a slice. That was always the move right there. That's great. Yeah,
Now you can get like a
yeah. That
whiskey
I
sour
don't know
that's
that
made
girl's
with
name. I'm
balsamic
sorry.
vinegar.
She's actually really sweet, but she's the woman that runs that bartending program. She does really good work. I'm a fan. I like what she puts out.
Yeah, highly recommend. Well, no, I the reason I asked about Salazar is because I understand that is one of the beverage
Yeah,
programs that you yourself created,
yeah,
and so I wanted to understand sort of like
yeah.
how all these experiences fed into creating that beverage program, and also how
Yeah.
you even go about doing that, like how you even go about creating a beverage program.
Sure. We can talk about before I get to Salazar is what I did with at I opened a restaurant on West Third Street called Pistola, and Pistola was dope. That
Mm,
was probably my favorite bar that I ever worked at. Like I got to like design the bar, put the fixtures in place. I mean, mine is Cole's. I worked at Cole's for some time too, but that's that wasn't my bar. That was just me bartending there. Yeah, I worked there. I worked at Cole's.
the French dip. Okay, well, are
Um,
you Coles or
I'm
Philippe's?
Cole's because you can get a mean cocktail, and yeah, and I think the customer service is a little better, and you get a better story. I don't, yeah, the same reason why we'll talk about why I'm not Ultimate Langer's cat. We'll talk about that. Um, so anyway, Pistola's dope. I get to I get full autonomy in this bar program. They're like, just run with it, do your thing. It's Italian. I'm working with this chef named Vic Casanova, cool cat, kind of big head, arrogant, but he's still a great chef. He really was a character, but he was an incredible chef, and I can't take it away from him. I always loved his pasta was delicious.
Yeah.
Everything he did was good. It was always a home run. But they give me full time in this bar. I'm taking care of $60,000 of inventory on this back bar, and it's all gorgeous. I have every whiskey, every tequila, everything, and they're just like, the more money I spent, the happier they were. They're like, yeah, keep filling it up. And this back bar is huge. I had a ladder. I'll send you a picture of it, but I had a ladder, and I'm climbing like 15 feet up this ladder to grab, this, expensive scotch, doing that. And that was dope. But I got to do like make a lot of like do my own programming. I did this thing for the Breakfast Club during like the 15th anniversary. That was it's a 20-year anniversary, whatever it was. That was like the first time I got to do like this like creative menu, and I got to really do like this deep character dive into everything, and like create a cocktail based on them with garnishes and flavors and textures and you name it. And so that was fun. But that was one of the first points where I realized I could actually do those kind of things. And a lot of people weren't doing that shit at that time.
Hmm.
But I guess so. Flash forward to Salazar. I'm on the phone with my buddy Seth, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I don't really know if you're interested or not, but my buddy Billy is planning on opening like this Mexican joint over in Frogtown." I was like, "Huh, interesting." So I go to the site, and it's not much. It's just a gas station in that time, or it was like a shut down gas station, and it's kind of a shell. And Billy had just purchased it, and he was like, this is gonna be a Salazar." I'm like, "Bro, this is like a little shack. Like, how are we gonna make this a Salazar?" He's like, "Well, the bar's gonna go right here, and the kitchen's gonna go right there." I'm like, "That's so small." But we ran with it. He's like, "Okay, well, let's, you want to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it sounds cool." I'm like, "What's the concept?" He's like, "It's like Mexican food." I have the chef named Esdras. I'm like, "Esdras?" I'm like, "Sounds like a cool dude." I meet Esdras. He's an angel. I'm like, "This guy's so cool. He's the sweetest man ever. What a human." I was like, "I'll work with this guy. Cool." And then like, he's very so humble too. Um, and then he's like, "Well, what do you want the cocktail program to be?" He's like, "I just want it to be like all our frescoes, and I want it to be like just like fun and refreshing." I was like, "I can do that." And he's like, "Mexican." I'm like, "Cool." I think that was like what that's all he knew he wanted to be. So he really let me run with that, and that was the first time I got to do real Mexican cocktails. Like I'm like, cool, I'm gonna do this horchata, like this like gourmet horchata. Just done the right way. I'm gonna do these different agua frescas. I'm gonna do, all these like fun like this crappy chilada. It was an instant hit. I just nailed that shit. All the cocktails that were coming out of that place were dope. I designed everything. I was like bringing in spirits, like importing spirits from Mexico that had like no one had in their back bars. Had the really cool tequila mezcal selection, all sustainable agaves on the back bar. Just kind of one of the first people to really like hone in on like what a proper selection looks like. Bartender curated. It wasn't huge because I didn't have the space for huge, but everything was meaningful. Everything was delicious, made sense, and everything was a tool. So yeah, we did that, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
doing. We were so busy. I had all the cocktails, not all of them. I would say about 50% of the menu on draft cocktails. So one of the first ones to really be doing draft cocktails like at that volume and at that level of success.
Is there any
Not if
downside to
you not if
draft
you're doing it
cocktails?
right. No, I think that draft cocktails are amazing. Some,
Mm-hmm.
like back then, they were still, kind of the wild, wild west, and we didn't have some of the same equipment or like automatic agitate, like keg agitators, or we weren't able to like fully apply like beer principles to cocktails. So it wasn't really fully worked out yet, but yeah, no, we were doing dope shit. Like I was selling like I don't even know, like 15 gallons of margarita a day and about 10 gallons of Paloma a day.
Wow,
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, I was batching
that's
all that
crazy.
out every day. No, it was a very unique spot, and I was really glad I got to create all that, and I'm honestly I'm probably still making that money to this day. But ultimately, like they wanted to kind of like they wanted to simplify things. Like I signed up for like a vision. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to keep growing this. I want to do this, and then like I think they started looking at the numbers, and they saw that like this is what it was. They had an operator that they brought in. He was kind of more. He's like, well, you sell a lot of tequilas, a lot of palomas, so why are we doing this other thing? So I'm like, you don't get it. It's like yes, we do a lot of these things, but it's all the other things around it. It's all the other colors of the balloons in the big bouquet of what makes this red balloon special. People will always want the red balloon, but like if these other
Mm-hmm.
ones are around it, they're not going to be attracted to it. They didn't understand that and ended up
Mm-hmm.
just like um, getting paid, some severance, and just I ended up going my way. We never like fully got like I was supposed to be a partner, and we never got the part like
Yeah.
in my time we never got the partnership agreement into place in time, and Billy ended up just cashing me out and sending me out. Just went on my way, and it was it was an amicable split, but there was still like some resentment I think on both parties, and I haven't been there since, to be honest.
It's still, I mean, it's still
Not
a
what it
pretty
was.
hot ticket, but it's certainly
Uh-uh.
not as it's not what it was, right? Like, it's definitely like, uh, a bit
Open fire is
yeah.
just like much more common now than it was back then. Yeah,
Back then, it was, like, revolutionary.
yeah,
It was,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
doing
The tacos
something
were
that
great.
everybody wanted.
They were so good. So yeah, it's other than that time.
Yeah.
That was dope. That was quite the project for me, and I really, I met some good people there. Got a lot of attention. Best new restaurant in Los Angeles. Multiple mentions in cocktail magazines. The cover of the Los Angeles Times, the Sunday edition, which was cool. Um, Never thought I'd get that. Jonathan Gold
Mhm.
write up, which is great. I can say that to this day, um, the only person that might have four write ups from Jonathan Gold, all positive. We start with the Pistola one, which he wrote about very highly.
Mm.
Talked about the cocktails there. I talked about my cocktail called the Rocket Man, like talking about how brilliant it was to use arugula in a cocktail and how delicious it was. And then
Hmm.
he called my Paloma the best Paloma in Los Angeles. I'm gonna put that on my tombstone. Out loud. Um, and then I did
That's
I helped
dope.
my friend at this project called the Bricks in downtown. It wasn't there very long, and but he did another write up there talking about how dope the cocktails were there. And then, oh man, and another very short-lived. I'm the king of short-lived projects, to be honest. Like I've been involved in so many ambitious things that just didn't really pan out. But at Dominic's in West Hollywood, we had this project there called Verlaine,
Mm.
and it was myself.
Oh yeah,
That was
I liked
that was
Verlaine a
me
lot.
and Chef Diego Hernandez that did that place together. And man, like that's like to me that'll always be the one that got away. Like I might, it was just honestly like
Verlaine. What happened there?
I'll say this, it's just like I think I've done a couple of projects with Mexican chefs that from Mexico, and the labor model in Mexico is not the same as American labor models. Like, you go to Mexico City, you'll see 14, 15 people in a kitchen. Everyone will be in charge of a garnish. So, someone that just does one garnish all night. You have someone that just is in charge of this, taking the skin
Hmm.
off this protein, and one person that just plates this. Well, it's American labor is different, just like, a labor cost can only sustain so many people in a kitchen. So, it's like harder to execute some of these menus that are like super ambitious when you only have, seven guys in your kitchen as opposed to, 41 guys in your kitchen. So yeah, that was part of it. Diego was, he that same year he had won like 100 best restaurants in the world, so he was on tour, kind of phoning it in, and nothing bad about that. It's just he just wasn't in the place to dedicate himself to to a West Hollywood restaurant that had so much hype on it. Just like the thing was so hyped up and everyone wanted it so
Yeah.
bad.
I remember that Jonathan Gold review and the elegy, sort of like the way he
Yeah,
spoke so
yeah,
highly of the
yeah.
beans. That's the thing that
Yeah,
I remember
uh-huh.
about that
But he
review.
spoke of the cocktails too in that too, and I was so proud of that cocktail program. I did this like Parisian like cocktail like list that was. I really tried hard. I really dug deep into it, and we had these plans for the inside bar. It was going to be like this members only kind of place, but the owners didn't stick to it. They ended up making like they turned it into an executive lounge. They kind of went against exactly what I told them not to do. And this was like we got to keep this exclusive, and they were just they did everything but that. And we just drained all like I bought all
Mhm.
this really cool Armagnac that I was really excited to serve to people, and then I'm just like kind of like not really valuing it like I did, and just draining it. And yeah, I just saw the demise of it going on. I've seen plenty of demises in my career, and I was like, yeah, this is not going to last very long. I see this going downhill right now. So yeah, it was always such a bummer because I really liked that space. I thought it was really cool. The way the way they received it was dope, and then what they did to it was amazing. And just never ever really came fully to light.
Yeah, that's that one was a surprising one when I heard it that it was closing
Yeah,
down because of all the hype around it, right? I mean, it was same era as
yeah,
Salazar being super hot
yeah,
too, I think, or maybe just right after, and
yeah,
it felt
yeah.
like
No doubt, no
abrupt
doubt, it
when it
did.
closed.
It totally did. So man, yeah, man, I wish I could have another shot at that space. I'd totally take it. But I obviously a little too far for that now. Well, I'm nowhere near there. But man, like I always loved it.
Well, I wanna make time to speak about one of my favorite sandwich
Thank you.
shops that I've been privy
And,
to
and your sandwich
in the last,
escapade.
10 months or so. Yeah, on my sandwich escapade of trying 100 epic sandwiches around Los Angeles, and one of my favorite ones I've had is the
Thank
egg
you.
salad sandwich at your Uptown Provisions. So I wanna hear, how did you go from
Sure,
running these incredible bar programs to opening up
sure.
a sandwich shop
So
in Whittier?
I after Verlaine did a couple little projects, some independent consulting, did some I don't know. I worked for a huge like corporate consulting company. Did a bunch of interesting little like consulting, just quiet behind the scenes work. I just wanted a paycheck. Didn't really want to like. I was kind of like a little heartbroken from the whole Verlaine situation. I didn't want to put my name on anything. Ended up like forming a relationship with my boys, Othon and Damien. We started a they had already had this like they had already launched like soft launch just like hospitality agency. Told them I wanted in. We started Villa Hospitality, took on some projects. Shortly after, we ended up like getting our own bar. We opened this bar called Here Now in the Arts District. Here Now is dope, and
Mhm.
within the first
Mm.
8 months, we ended up getting on 100 best bars in America list. And we just really showed people hospitality through our lens, of Angelinos, and how to treat people and how to make dope cocktails and how to create a vibe. And what I didn't know is like we kind of got a bunk deal though. Like we started getting paychecks from our other partner and who kind of handled the financials, and like we just weren't making any money. Like there wasn't enough meat on the bones for us. And and then also just she wasn't
Hmm.
being pleasant with us, so um, we ended up just deciding that like, hey, maybe we just need to go our own ways and figure out our own thing here because this isn't, we've already won the awards here, and she can have it. She's already kind of, she's already on her own demise. She doesn't need our help.
Yeah.
So we ended up going our own way on that project, and really digging into Villa hospitality. And then we're taking all these really dope like independent like contracts of like from Tecate to different tequila brands to Bohemia beer, you name it, all this fun work. And then we have like two restaurants that we're getting ready to open. And then we get word of COVID. We're like, oh my God. Well, I'm listening to NPR. I'm like, dude, this is going on, but like I'm hearing of like, things closing in other countries, and I start hearing of like possibilities like festivals closing and stuff. And then I'm working on a project on Satel, and I'm eating across the street, and I'm watching people's mannerisms. Have you ever been to that tempura place on Sawtell? Just kind of like a grab your own kind of tempura spot. It's like you get a buffet. I'm like watching people like wipe their boogers and like not and like grab stuff, and like everyone's like grabbing chili and like sharing bottles. It's like this is not good. If this pandemic is gonna happen and this is how we're behaving right now, we're in big trouble. We're in really big trouble. And so, sure enough, like,
Yeah.
I tell the guys that night, I was like, hey guys, like, I think I'm a few days ahead on this, but I'm gonna say right now that we need to suspend these projects. Like, I don't think this is gonna last long. I think that we need to be ahead of this. And, I don't want to be, I don't, I don't want to be in a restaurant setting, and I definitely don't want to be enabling this client to be opening if this is what's about to happen. So we say that client isn't really happy with it, but we're content with it. And then 48 hours later, we get a notice that it's a wrap. So we're like, oh my God, crazy. We ended up, all of our projects went down real quick. We had nothing really had no, nothing was going on for us. No money coming in. Ended up starting like this at the time this little humanitarian effort or this effort to like just simply feed undocumented workers. And yeah, it was like the disenfranchised, the people
Hmm.
that weren't going to receive any benefits, and people that just like lost their jobs. Were like, well, we got to get food in these people's mouths. So create this thing, which ends up becoming a nonprofit. I wasn't there super long. I helped them launch it, helped with some of the original like conception of it, helped them, some deliveries. But Sarah and I were working on having a child, so to me, that's where my time was more important. And I think this seems like more you like like your guys' new trajectory. Like I like food. I want to cook. I want to make drinks. Like I don't want to be a part of um, you know people's lives in that manner. I think that you guys are great for it. You'll do amazing. But I ended up going my own way, and then that was the first time in my life I ever woke up with nothing going on. That was cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you have this something that is very similar to me. It seems like
Yeah.
you like new projects. Like you kind of like you love to take on new things because the phrase you've said the most during this entire
I don't
conversation is,
know.
and then I went my own
Yeah.
way. Like you kind of like it seems like you
Yeah.
always find a way
Yeah.
to go your own way. So it's
Yeah.
funny that
And
it
then
took you this
that was
long
the
to
first,
start
like
your own
it was
thing.
it wasn't but it wasn't scary though, because like I had this big old bag of tricks. I knew all these things. I had a very supportive wife. I had a son on the way for motivation. I had already moved back to Whittier, so it was all a home game. I was like, man, this is crazy. Like what are we gonna do? Like, is like I don't got an ace up my sleeve. I don't got anything in my back pocket right now. Like, what is the move here? So end up, me and Sarah, or start talking about it, like we should just find our own place and figure out what we want to do. And for years, Sarah and I had always like joked about Sarah Sammy's, and it was always a thing for us. So I was like, we should create a sandwich shop, and sandwiches have always been kind of like part of our love language. I think it's just like working in nightlife, working in day, like it was always like a sandwich in passing, a conversation about the sandwich. Like, what did you think about this? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? And then, we both, shared a love for sandwiches. So it was like, I think that the sandwich shop thing always kind of stuck in our head. Like, man, it'd be cool if we had a little sandwich shop and little market locally. And, living in Whittier, like there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot going on. And, living we spent forever living in LA. Sarah lived in Franklin Village. I lived in Echo Park, Silver Lake. And it was like we had these commodities in our life that we're used to. We're used to going to Larchmont Wine and Cheese for a sandwich. We're used to going to these other places and getting a good bite. And we didn't have access to that here in Whittier. So it was like, well, maybe we'll just open a sandwich shop here. That might be kind of fun. We knew nothing about opening a sandwich shop, but let's open a sandwich shop. So, we start looking around. I look at a couple places. Nothing makes sense. I go to this meeting at this location, and it was kind of discouraging. I was like, man, that's not it. This guy wants a bunch of money. I don't know what he'll be able to build. And I tell Sarah, I'm gonna walk home from this meeting. I'm just feeling a little defeated, and I walk by this little shop on this block with nothing going on in it, with a little for rent sign. I was like, huh, interesting. Okay, it's definitely not what I would, not the perfect location, but it's something. But all I did notice, it had an A in the window, and it had like a three compartment sink in there, and it had a little hand sink, and I was like, well, it's something. So we ended up calling the number, and before before I could even blink, the guy had just been so like pushy. He was like, "Yeah, take it. Give me this much. Do this. Let's do this. It could be yours." I was like, "Wow, this guy's motivated." So I end up, 48 hours later, I have this space. I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm opening a sandwich shop now, or I'm doing something here." So this space ended up just like being an onion. And when I say that, we're just peeling back layers of problems. And it's like, oh, great, this, oh my God, like, this
Yeah.
space was just so bad. Like, I ended up, learning that it was just a big front for his government scam. He was just scamming the women and children's program and, having fake food on the shelves just so he could, take people's cards and scan them and cash them out on it, take some money, selling, like calling cards to call people to call Mexico, charging people for minutes in his store, selling meth pipes. Um, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then selling
Wow.
like reverse osmosis water from a system that was just fucking disgusting. And the place had been vacant for a year. So I'm over here throwing out like just disgusting bags of like decomposed chips and all these other fucking crazy things, creating all this trash. So I ended up like stripping this place down to where I thought, okay, some of this might be salvageable to pretty much nothing. Nothing. There's nothing today in that store that is a part of that, minus the three compartment sink. Everything else is mine. It's all
Hmm.
new. It's all stuff that me and Sarah acquired on our own. Like there was a couple fridges that made it for like maybe like a couple months, but they ended up all getting replaced. So yeah, ended up paying way too much money for what I thought was a permitted place at the time, unpermitted business. That yeah, we had to spend a bunch of extra money to get re-permitted. Oh yeah, it ended up being a 8 month journey to getting it there. September 2021, we get this place open. And
Hmm.
when it opened, it was like we wanted to have this like small market that we sold, CPG goods that were, for up and coming people that, didn't have a space in a Whole Foods or didn't have, that were just launching, just beyond maybe selling at the farmer's market, but just big enough to like grow their brand now and to like get it in onto a retail shelf. And we acquired a lot of those brands, but then we also brought in some of the
Hmm.
bigger ones too, because we know we needed some support from some of the bigger names that were kind of within that space too. So we did that, and then we decided we opened a little sandwich counter. We didn't really know what direction it was all going to go. We just like, we'll let the market, the Whittier market, determine what this place actually is. So, right out the gate, the sandwiches were a hit. People loved them.
How did
So
you come up with the menu?
that's yeah, man. So there's a couple parts of it, but I've been a sandwich eater my whole life. So I feel like I have a good palate, and it was like, well, we need the staples. So we need to figure out a turkey. We need to figure out a ham sandwich. We need to figure out this everything. Let's build the skeleton of this menu. So then, Sarah and I start trying different meats and trying different products out, and we're like, "Oh, this is great," and then, we would kind of just ping pong on it. She would like this, I would like this, and it would become a sandwich. And, we would try it out. This is great. And then, yeah, we ended up with I would write things out, show her, and she's like, I don't know about that, and a few arguments here and there, but, for the most part, we were, after the greater good of the situation. And yeah, our friend Amy flew down from Seattle. She's an amazing chef in Seattle, and if you ever have a chance to go to her bar, it's called the Dark Room, and it's in Seattle. Check it out. She does like this Korean bar concept. It's so cool. It's like very dark in there, but
Hmm.
and what I learned is eating Korean food in the dark is a different experience. Like yeah, yeah, eating fermented Korean food, like in like a room where you can't see it it's different. It's really different. Yeah. So anyway, Amy comes down. She
It's a
helps.
trip.
She's like, she's here for about a week, and she's helping me kind of like fully develop this menu out and cost it, and put final touches on it. And we rolled on it. You know, I will say that I think that I do. This is a point I like to make a lot. I do have. I feel like my background really, really helps me. I've been in beverage forever, and I know how to scale product. It's like so like, well, how do we make this many? Well, we'll figure it out. We can make that many. Like I know how to batch things. I know how to put things together. Like, you know. And then B, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I feel like a sandwich is closer in relation to a cocktail than it is a dish. And when I say that, I mean
Hmm.
that you have to find harmony in textures. You have to find harmony in layering,
Hmm.
temperatures, everything, because everyone gets one snap at this. They get one bite at it. You get one pull of a cocktail. And I don't feel like a traditional chef's mind always works like that. They can compose dishes, they can put here, 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 and here, and they can have, they can compartmentalize things. In cocktails, you can't. It's just like this is always like this. This is always one piece. This is always a singular form of a taste. So, and I felt like that I was like, I'm going to use this
Hmm.
to my advantage because I don't think that, people who come from the other walk of creating a sandwich shop have honed this skill as much as I have. That was to me a huge advantage. And then I will say, as you saw when you came in, we don't have a hood there. We don't have you know, we don't we don't have gas appliances. So, I'll take it back to, to the basics, to my upbringing, like we learned very early to work with what we have, not think about what we don't have. And, so thinking about that, it's like, okay, well, we don't have like this piece of equipment, but how do we get this job done? How do we make this taste, work? And how do we make these flavors, like make you not miss like not having this style of preparation? So bringing that together, I think I was able to really create this like special like sandwich menu.
The harmony
Yeah.
piece makes so much sense to me, and honestly, I think you just really eloquently summed up what has distinguished a mid sandwich for me
Yeah, yeah.
while
Uh-huh.
I've been eating a ton of sandwiches this year versus the truly transcendent ones. It is where all of those ingredients are working together. I can think of a bunch of sandwiches where all of the
Yeah,
individual ingredients are really good, but you take a bite and
right.
you're like, "There's something off about this," and it's the fact that it's not all coming together, and I think that's
Yeah,
what I really appreciated
yeah,
about your egg salad sandwich is how everything comes
yeah,
together, and riffs off each other. And one element I hadn't even considered was temperature. Like you're right. Like you get the kind of like hot
Yeah,
toasted bread with the cool egg salad. Like it's those
right.
contrasts and everything is working together in a beautiful way. So,
I've watched how you kind of you eat, and I observe how a lot of people, a lot of people that are really into food writers, food enthusiasts, how they eat, and like I feel like you're definitely a big texture guy, and like you need balance within that, and I feel like that's one of the things that we do well there. Even when my staff is like when they taste something of mine,
mhm,
they're critical of it, and I welcome it and I appreciate it. I'm like, try this, and they're like, oh, I think this one texture is not quite there. I think we want to go here, chef. I think we need more crunch in this. I'm like, huh, I agree with you. Or like, like they'll be the first one to be like, no, we need more acid. We need more acid in this. I'm like, they're all acid heads. They love acid. It's like we need more acid in
yeah.
the sandwich.
I love acid too. I don't know how people
Yeah.
don't add acid to their sandwich. Like it is
It
the
really
easiest way
is,
to elevate something.
it's really fun, the creative process behind sandwiches, and I think a few people know how to do it right, but I think a few people just there's multiple styles of chefs that create sandwiches. Some chefs depend on like using like really high end, luxurious meats, and that's kind of their MO. Like, oh well, we use this beautiful
Mhm.
wagyu this, and like we fall flat in our face after that. That's a very common style. I know that chef. Or you have chefs that they're just purists, and it's like, oh, I want the pure Italian sandwich, like the Jersey deli style sandwich, and they're just so caught up in their traditional ways that they forget to put like to lubricate the sandwich and put some sauce on it. And it's like, come on, like this sandwich is
Yeah.
dry. Like I appreciate this like nice like flaky bread. I like your meticulous layering of meat is great here, but this sandwich is dry, and the roof of my mouth is begging for forgiveness right now.
Or add some like or it's really one note because you refuse
Yeah.
to add a pickle or a pepperoncini in there or something that adds a little bit of brightness. 'Cause I just had an
Uh-huh.
Italian sub that's like very well renowned,
Hmm.
and it was fine. And the reason it was fine is because
Yeah.
it didn't have any acidity. And I'm not trying to like be like an acid head, but what that does is it dulls all the other flavors. It makes everything else kind of like, you know, taste one note, and if you
Yeah.
have that hint, it's like what you said about the red balloon. It's like the red balloon is only special because it's
Right.
in the midst of all the other balloons. If you don't have all the other ingredients, you can use
Right.
the best meats in the world, but that
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just,
you're totally
a
right.
red balloon
And
on
I
its
think
own.
it's important to balance those highs and those lows. It's like a song, right? It's like you want to beat the drop, right? It's important for the beat to drop, but you need the build up. The build up. If there's no build up and that beat drops, like what's the point of a beat drop?
All right, everybody get to Uptown Provisions. But Aaron, before I
Yeah,
let you
sure.
go, I want to ask you about one more thing,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
listicles.
Jesus.
Listicles and all these like lists that
Yeah.
go around about best sandwiches and shit. And you've been on a couple,
Yeah.
but you've also not been on a lot. And when I see that, and I'm
Yeah.
not even like the restaurateur, right? Like I see this happen to not just you,
Yeah.
but pizzerias that I
Yeah.
really admire or taquerias that I really admire. I get pissed off. It's like I get angry. Like, for me, it's like I get angry that I feel like some of these people going out and doing lists are either being lazy or not or just like recycling things, right? And in your case, it's
Right.
especially
Right.
apparent because of your
Nope.
location. You're in Whittier, which is not central, right? So I feel like it's easy for a lot of people to make these lists and not drive out to Whittier, not include you and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it makes me as a reader furious. I'm curious, what do you think? Do you put a
Look,
lot of
I'm over
stock
here
into it, or
fucking
you're like, I
yelling.
don't really
I'm
worry about
screaming.
that?
Like like in the sense that like like my product is it's a big product, and I know it, and I know it's dope, and I know it belongs on these lists. And um it's hard. It's when these lists are formed, and you don't even come try it before you formulate this like best 30 sandwiches in Los Angeles list or best 100 or whatever it is, best 10. Like, I'm like, well, you know what? Like, you didn't try a contender. Like, how do you form this list, Mr. Journalist, if you don't try all the options? Look, there's 25,000 people on Instagram that are saying this is great. There's 500 plus Yelp reviews and Google reviews that are at 4.5 stars. There's endless photos, and you have nothing that represents a certain region of Los Angeles. It's like, okay, well, so at what point is it
Mm-hmm.
okay to just completely shaft it, and say, well, this doesn't make any sense. Look, I'll be real. Like, a lot of those lists, they are pay to play. In the sense that, like, you have these big PR agencies that represent these brands and these companies, and they're phoning it in to whoever the writer is, and like, hey, make sure that we get on this list. We take great care of I won't go to any names. But yeah, it's always been kind of like that, in that sense. But it,
Yeah.
we're moving to a point, I think, where people that do what you do, I put more stock into that. And I'm like, this man's doing the work. This man's over here trying every sandwich. Like, if you came to me and you're like, dude, no, I've had 100 sandwiches in LA. Your sandwich ain't worth balls. I'd be like, yeah, fine, fair, because you've had every sandwich. Like, your credentials make sense to say this. But, for someone that's, phoning in, it's okay, great, Bay Cities and Jeddah and all these other places. I'm like, great, those are great sandwiches, but I do feel like I do have a home with these sandwiches. So, it's time. It's just time and patience,
Yeah.
and I'm forming up, right, currently forming up some articulate emails to some of these publications, and be like, hey, just why don't you come check us out, at least before you publish your next list, here, check out what we do, because it is special.
Yeah. Look, I'll say the only thing I can say is about this in sort of the journalist's
Yeah,
defense is there's only so many hours in a day, and
yeah,
they've got a lot of different things to try. Yeah, like for example, if they're working on a list right now about
yeah,
sandwiches, they're also working on 4 other lists about sushi, pizza, you know what I mean? Like, we don't see all of it that goes into it, and I know for a fact that there are a lot of places they visit that
yeah.
don't even make it to the lists, you know? So, it's not a guarantee that if they're visiting you, you're gonna make it on, right? But I think one thing we can say is,
Mhm.
like, as consumers,
Yeah, yeah,
don't take
absolutely.
lists as Bible. It's too easy to if you are seeing lists that constantly have the same 5, 6, 7 places on it, start to
Yeah.
ask some
And
questions,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
say
like, do
this right
your own
now. I
research.
think that if I were to make my own list of my own sandwiches, I think you had a top four sandwich. I don't think you had the number one sandwich. And so it makes me feel the
Oh,
top four
shit,
sandwich. You
the
didn't
one
have
at your shop? What's the number
well,
1? What's the number 1?
this prime rib and brisket sandwich is dope. It's very delicious. It's our number one selling sandwich. That one kills it for me, and everyone goes crazy for it. Um, my pastrami sandwich. I mean, look, I get my pastrami from the same people that everyone else gets their pastrami from. Yeah, we get it from RC Provisions. My cut is a little different, but what makes it difference is my rye bread. Our rye bread is baked fresh daily. It has all these amazing aromatics inside of that rye bread. It's not just like one note rye bread. And then it's natural rice bread that it's on. Um, the the Russian dressing, we call it 999 island dressings, one island short of 1,000, because we add jalapenos. We had like really finely minced jalapenos into it. I like a little heat on it. I like a little something, a little bit of a bite. I put pickled onions on it. It has the melted cheese. It has the fresh crowd on it. Um, I really think that my pastrami sandwich holds weight in the conversation. It's a really special one. I think the only knock is I don't make the pastrami in house, but neither does Langers. Yeah,
Oh, neither does any of these places. There's,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
3
Ugly,
places
ugly
that
drum
make their
and
own
what, a
pastrami
couple
in
other
house.
a couple other people.
Jeff's Table makes their own. But I'll be
Yeah,
honest, I didn't even love that pastrami. I was like, kudos for making it yourself, I guess. But
yeah.
I
And
I I
you know
think the
what?
RC
I think
Provision
what makes
stuff
the
is better.
difference is the people that are the kids that are serving it to you. You know, we employ, you know, 12 people that live in our community, and we are constantly giving back. They start with no food education, and they walk out as food Bibles. All of them. They're all insanely dedicated to their craft, and the level of hospitality, like behind it. You know, it's like you know, I think that language is great, but it can, you know, in other places, cats in, you know, one of them, it's like these are factories. These are in and out, in and out, in and out, cycle, cycle, cycle. It's like we are able to, you know, we're not that, and we're able to kind of create this personalized experience to where we make you feel like a little special when you come through our door.
You're making
Yeah, and then
Barry
last one,
proud.
our
Barry
turkey.
at
I
the
think our
Del Rey, you're making him
you're
proud.
not you don't have a better turkey sandwich. No, I know you
I
said that.
believe that
I
because
know you
turkey
said that, but I
blows,
think you're wrong here. I think
any way
you're
you
wrong
dice
here.
it.
Like turkey's dope, dude. Hey, it's the cut, it's the acid. It's just it has this, like this
How?
it's like this beautiful like Greek seasoning brine on it. It's
Yeah, but everything you're describing, Aaron, is not the turkey. You're
yes,
describing
okay, it's great.
everything that goes
So
around the
turkey's a blank
turkey.
canvas then, right?
Yeah, yeah, but like, fair enough. I mean, that's where your
Yeah,
philosophy though works for me with turkey
yeah,
because you're so concentrated on the harmony where, and I think that is where your cocktail background helps you because like a spirit like vodka, right? It doesn't have the most
yeah,
pronounced
yeah.
flavor. It's really
Turkey's
about how
vodka.
you
There we
build
go.
around it. But like, so it's kind of like
Yeah,
turkey's vodka. There you go.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
yeah. Turkey's
okay,
vodka.
okay. You're
That's
speaking
right.
my language now. Well, Aaron, I've kept
It's
you for
fine.
like
That's fine. That's
47
fine.
minutes longer than you signed up for.
Yeah. I mean, you can find me at Uptown Provisions. It's Uptown Provisions on Instagram. You can drive to Whittier. You can come to our sandwich shop. See me there. I am there daily. You're not gonna miss me. On the line or on the Walmart greeter at the door. So you're not gonna miss me. I didn't
Yeah,
know you
well,
were
you
either,
actually
but
came up and said hi to me. I
no,
didn't even know who
didn't.
you were. I don't even know if you knew.
That's it, and
Yeah,
that's the key.
you were just
That's
doing your
what,
thing.
you know. That's the booking puck mentality right there. You touch every guest. You make sure everyone's having a great time. You're the owner. You have more impact than you know. And I wish more owners took that initiative because you know people want to talk to
Oh
the owner.
yeah,
They want to talk to the creator. They want to talk to people who are behind this special experience, and I take great pleasure in that.
it's palpable. It's palpable, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. I think our guests are
Thank
very
you.
lucky to be
I'll
able to
hope
listen
to
to
see
your
you soon
story.
for
So
that
thank you for
turkey
sharing it.
or the roast recipe, whatever, all of it. We're
I'll
firing
be there
something
for the
up.
pastrami. Maybe not the turkey, but okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guest, Aaron Melendrez, for joining us and sharing his story. Man, I don't know about you, but I can't wait till the next time I'm able to get to Whittier to get my hands on one of those sandwiches. I know I've been waxing poetic about the egg salad sandwich, but it sounds like next time I'm up there, I'm gonna have to try this brisket and prime rib deal. Okay, well, if you like what you heard today, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. I'll be genuinely, eternally grateful if you leave us a review or a rating. It turns out those things really help. We'll be back next week with another epic episode. And in the meantime, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok and even Threads at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCountDown. You can also find me at LA Food Pod on Instagram. That's LAFoodPod.